This is a very short video addressing the issue of the potential for adoption in the situation of an unexpected or unwanted pregnancy. The picture here is of Lena Björklund, a 38-year-old barebow archer from Sweden. She's a two-time world champion. You can see her there with her baby. She has competed when she's been pregnant, and she has competed when she's been pregnant and also dealing with multiple sclerosis. So she's a barebow archer and has won the world championship twice with barebow, and she's looked at the longbow because it's been a little bit easier for her to work with the MS and during pregnancy. As always, the focus, the target at which we are aiming is the good, the right, the ought, the bullseye. So I just want to speak about the myth of the unwanted baby. Oftentimes when we're addressing abortion, we hear that babies are unwanted. It's really not true. The backlog that we have in adoption agencies in most states of children to be adopted are older children who come out of troubled situations, who are dealing with attachment disorders and who have been mistreated by parents and neglected. When a baby comes up for adoption, there are lots and lots of people looking to adopt that baby in the United States. You see, the teen pregnancy rate dropped 50%, and the teen birth rate dropped 43% from 1990 to 2010. That had a lot to do with abortion, and that's a CDC statistic. So the point is one of the primary places where those pregnancies, the children conceived in those pregnancies, went in the past was up for adoption, and they're no longer available for adoption. So these are not conservative or religious organizations. You can see that this is National Public Radio, NPR.org. Fewer babies available for adoption by U.S. parents. That there's just not the abundance that there was in the past. And this is the Atlantic.com, National Archive. Abortion, adoption, supply, and demand. And the article is about the fact that there aren't as many babies available for adoption. So what are the numbers like? Well, right now there are about 2 million couples currently waiting to adopt in the United States, which means that there are as many as 36 waiting families for every one child who's placed for adoption. The demand for adoptable infants remains great as many mature couples experience impaired fertility, having put off trying to have children until their late 30s or 40s, and therefore faced with a shortage of domestic candidates, no babies to adopt in the U.S., or long waiting lines, and barriers to taking in neglected or abused children they may not feel capable of doing so, potential adopters often look abroad for infants or toddlers in need of permanent homes. I think that pretty much every one of my students will be able to think about someone you know who either is an adoptee from another country who was raised by someone that you know, or a couple that has taken in children to adopt, either straight or LGBT couples, and they've done so by going abroad. I know quite a number of people who fit in that category and know of children from all different parts of the world. Right now, Russia is closed down to us, and some other countries have become much more leery of allowing Americans to adopt, and there's a lot of money to be made for nationals in some of these countries from Americans who are looking for children to come from abroad. So it's a big thing going on in the United States today, and a lot of the children of other nationalities that we find in rural areas in the U.S. have white parents, and their parents went abroad to find them because they couldn't find children here in the States or infants that they could adopt. So this is results from adoptive families 2009 to 2010. I know that's a decade ago, but this is the most recent information that I can find. So a decade ago, things would have been less expensive. Cost and timing of adoption survey. Average cost to adopt a baby in the United States, if you go through an adoption agency, just about $34,000. If you deal with an attorney, just about $31,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if it's a private adoption done through an attorney. 35% of respondents, so that's a high percentage, of those who tried to adopt experience at least one false start. The majority of those false starts cost a little bit less than $5,000. So families are spending between $25,000 and $75,000 for the cost of traveling abroad and the cost of bringing a baby home from another country. And the reason being is that there are not infants available for adoption here in the USA, or there's very few. Therefore, if somebody becomes pregnant and if adoption is a consideration, their baby is not going to be unwanted or neglected or languish in a foster home system for the rest of its life, not if it's put up for adoption as an infant. Adoption is therefore an alternative worth considering when we're addressing the topic of abortion.